All right, welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And we are here, or I am here. I have the great honor of sitting in the company of Taiia Smart Jones or Young. Where did Jones come from? My
Like,
goodness.
I have a new nickname.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. I told you I was telling Ti I hit my head a little bit this morning, so maybe things got rattled around in there. But I'm so excited to be here with you, and it was such a pleasure in the winter to have you as part of the summit, and you're going to be back as part of the Right from the Heart event, which is also exciting. And yeah, we're here to talk to you all today about voice and other things. So welcome, Tiaya.
Thank you so much for having me, Tracy. And no worries. A new last name for me. I have a new husband. You never let the current one know.
Guess what, honey? Dropping that. Oh my goodness. So, one of the things that you're going to be diving into more at the Right from the Heart event is the concept of voice. And I just love the freebie that you've got available that I put in yesterday's newsletter, and we're going to drop it in the comments below so people who hadn't seen it in the newsletter can access it. So I wonder if you could just explain what just touch in, because we're going to dive into this more in the Right from the Heart. But voice is the thing that carries a story. So you have a really unique and cool way of teaching it. So I wonder if you want to dive into what you've seen in terms of people struggling with voice, and
Sure.
then why it's important and why they should tune into your workshop.
Sure. So voice is super important to me. As Tracy said, it can definitely move your story forward, right? It's one of those tools. But the thing that I find people struggle with is how do they sound like themselves on the page? So I specifically work with clients who are interested in publishing nonfiction books. So it could be self-help, it could be a memoir, it could be a guide, right? And so the thing is that they tend to get in their heads and feel like when we know who our experts are, right? So let's say, for instance, is a person who wants to write a memoir and she's like, oh, but I want my memoir to be like Michelle Obama's. Well, like Michelle Obama is Michelle Obama. You're not going to come in and be her, right?
Yeah.
Her story is her story. So really tapping into who you are authentically is one of the things that I encourage people to do. So like one of my clients is a meditation and excuse me, no, she is a meditation and mindfulness coach, and she like likes to drop a few f-bombs in there, a few now and again. So she was really at first really cautious about that, and I was like, if people come to your meditations and they hear you drop a f-bomb and they're not like cringing and they're not concerned, then don't feel that way when you're writing, because if that's who you are showing up as your authentic self and you drop a few f-bombs here and there, and they're not always f-bombs, I don't want to exaggerate,
Yeah.
but it's the thing is that you want to come across that way on the page, and we don't always, right? Sometimes we speak differently and we write differently, and I really want
Yeah.
to be able to connect those things. And for me, the biggest thing is that because I reference pop culture and I reference rap music and I reference my family or whatever, I bring all of that into my writing, because that's who I am if you're going to have a conversation with me. And so my thing is, for when you read my voice, I want you to definitely feel like, oh, that's T. T would say that. And
Yeah.
one of the biggest honors I've ever gotten was my sister would tell me that sometimes she would read publications that I wrote for and purposely not look at the byline because she wanted to figure out if she could hear my voice. And
Mm,
she was like, I was always right. And so
yeah.
I encourage people to think about, and it takes practice. It's not this thing that you're going to nail overnight, right? I think sometimes you have to think about writing maybe a paragraph or a couple paragraphs a certain kind of way to get familiar with your voice, right? A lot of
Yeah.
times if you're academic or if you're corporate, you're used to that academic speak, right?
Absolutely.
Right, you're used to speaking
Yeah.
corporate jargon. And it's like, but if that's not who you are, if you're a corporate person by day, but by night you are a yoga instructor, you can't talk like that to your folks, right? need to be,
Totally.
you need to be more in tune with who this voice is, the yoga instructor voice. You need to be
Hmm.
really in tune with that.
I think sometimes too, like people censor themselves, right? Like you're saying the F bomb, the woman with the F bomb, but like censor the parts of ourselves that are actually who we are. And so, we're like, oh, in English class, like I get a lot of writers who kind of revert back to how they learned to write an essay in English class, which is really not what authentic writing is, that's like a formal structure that
Mm.
belongs somewhere else.
Right, in the classroom, right? Because
Yeah.
you're writing that way to get the grade because your teacher is now grading you on a specific kind of rubric, right? Okay,
Hmm.
did the paragraphs flow? Whatever the rubric is that they're checking against, that's what you're writing to. And we both know when you're writing professionally and when you're writing essays and blogs, it really is more creative than that. And I think that's
Hmm.
where people get really hung up.
Yeah. And one of the things, like, when you sent me your email, you said, "Oh, this is my email I'm sending out." I was like, "Damn, that's good." Like I felt but when I read your stuff, and it definitely comes across in the freebie, there's such a playfulness and delight, it's so delightful to read. And I think that as we're trying to work on the story, it doesn't, not everybody has to sound playful and delightful, but that there is this, that voice carries the story forward, like that it is part of what compels the story. It's not the plot necessarily, often it's like, who is this speaking to me? I want to know more,
Mhm.
that intrigue that is inherent in a good writing voice.
Yeah, and I think audiobooks for me have
Mm.
definitely helped me to help my writers tap more into their voice because a lot of times I will read the book and then I'll buy the audiobook to see how.
Mm.
I love when the author narrates, right? Because you really get to feel that person's voice shining through. Like one of my favorites was listening to Mariah Carey because she would break out into song in
Ah,
the passage. And I'm like, how fun is that, right? To be able to feel like Mariah Carey is right in the room with me while I'm
mm,
taking a shower and she's telling me her life story. That feels amazing. And that's the
yeah.
that I'm soaking up when I listen to audiobooks to be able to get my clients to feel that freedom and to feel that creativity when it comes to, like you said, writing in their voice and not going based on, okay, well, what we learned in school is okay. It's like suspend that for a second. Miss Crabtree is not there. If you remember the little Miss Crabtree is not over your shoulder. I promise you. You can start a sentence with hands, right? It's like, hey,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rules.
yeah. That's awesome. Mrs. Crabtree is not there. I love that. Yeah, so I love that idea of audiobooks, and I mean, I love listening to them, and it depends on, I really, if I don't like the reader, I can't actually listen to them.
Same. Again, right? The voice is so important.
Yeah. I think I think that's wonderful idea of like, I do instruct my students to read out loud um, as part of their listening for their voice, or getting someone to read it out loud to them, or recording their own work to listen, to hear the cadence, to hear the rhythms. But I never thought of making that leap to audiobook and listening to other authors read their stuff. Love
Yeah.
that.
There's something for me that it helps to now bring what I already read to life. And
Hmm.
I feel like if I am enjoying the person's voice, then it really allows me to enjoy the story altogether. And I think probably one of my first audiobooks, because I wasn't really into it at first, was, I believe it was Michelle Obama's Becoming.
Mm,
And what I remember was that some people were feeling like they couldn't wait to get to, when they read the book, they couldn't wait to get to the stuff about the White House. And I told them, I said, well, why don't you listen to the audiobook instead of reading it? Because if you're in your car, right? I'm in New York City, so we're on the car, we're in the car, we're on the train, on the bus, etc. You have that commuting time. It is something to just kind of zone out and listen
hmm.
one. And it really does feel like Michelle is like right here next to you, telling you, right, telling you how Barack used to order this special fish in the White House, and then she found out it was $700, and she told him never again. Because I didn't know that once you get in the White House, you have to pay for all that stuff. I'm thinking like you can, it's part of the deal.
Yeah. It's like being in an all-inclusive or something.
It's not like at being an all-inclusive in Jamaica. It's so not.
Yeah, that I don't get to spend that much time in cars and buses anymore since I work from home. But
Right. Me either.
I used to listen to a lot of audiobooks and yeah, it felt like this sacred time to spend like that intimate space and to remember that voice as we create voice, we're creating intimacy
Yes.
between ourselves and our readers. And it creates connection. So actually, when we are not, or we were kind of hiding our voice, we lose connection to the
Yeah.
reader.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're not showing up as ourselves, and we're trying to be someone else,
Mhm.
right? It's like if you're trying to sound like Michelle Obama, you've already started down the wrong path, because
Mhm.
that's not who you are, and it's not your story. So I
Mhm.
think that we need to really get comfortable with who we are and not be ashamed of it, because there are ugly parts of our story and there are beautiful parts of our story. And so you have to be able to be comfortable in both sides of your story, to show up as who you are. And to, if you're, I always encourage my writers, if you're funny, be funny, make jokes. If you,
Yeah.
right, if you like, there's times when I reference rap lyrics, or I reference a movie, it could be Scarface, anything, and it's like that's part of who I am, and that's part of how I connect with the people who are reading me or checking me out on lives or etc. It's like I want to be consistent on the page and in person. And so what you said
Mhm.
about having your clients read out loud, that's so important,
Yeah.
because listening to the cadence, listening to where you might stumble on a word, it's like, okay, well, would you really say those words, right? Because
Yeah.
you're stumbling and you're tripping over your own words, maybe you haven't selected the right word, or maybe you need to chop that sentence up a little bit, or maybe you need to just stop trying to sound like Michelle Obama and sound like yourself.
I love it. So I'm just like we could go on, but we're gonna let's just. I would love if you tell folks for the right from the Heart event, which is June 17th. So everybody's gonna start getting information about that. But what you're gonna offer, because you've got a great
Yeah.
workshop called Pop Off the Page.
Hop
Is
on
it
the
pop on the page? Pop
Mhm.
off.
I like pop.
Pop
That's
up.
different. I like that too. It's on the page, 3 ways to supercharge your writing voice. And so we are really going to talk about, there are many things that I think go into
Mhm.
creating your writing voice, but I'm going to talk about my 3 favorites. And I'm going to say, I'm just going to give you a hint at one. And one is your personality. We talked
Mhm.
a little bit about that here. And so you'll find the other ways that the other things that I consider really influence your writing and your personality. It's who you are. And so, like I said, if you're funny, be funny. But if you're not funny, don't force yourself to now try to
Yeah.
funny, right? Or force yourself to be overtly funny when your humor is really maybe it's a little snarky, maybe it's a little bit of shade, maybe it's a little,
Mhm.
right, it's not as obvious and overt. And so we're going to talk about that and how you can use those things to really show up in your writing.
I love that. And really, nobody's going to want to miss this. It's really a cornerstone of writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. So even if you are not a nonfiction writer, I know you're going to benefit from this workshop. So do show up. And we were gonna, you are currently working with ambitious writers, and I love this idea and would love to actually talk about ambition because sometimes I don't really think we talk about it enough in
No.
terms of writing, and that it's not a bad word, because I think sometimes we feel ambition is
Yeah, it's not a bad word at all. And so I have this 12-week intensive and I call it the Ambitious Author Intensive because one, you got to be ambitious to say, I'm going to bang out a first draft of a nonfiction piece in 12 weeks. And some of my clients are working on memoirs, some of them are working on like relationship books, etc. And so just the idea, the audacity to say, hey, I'm going to be able to do this in 12 weeks. And they have the responsibility of writing 1,700 words a week. And then we meet and I give them feedback and we establish community. And I think community is really big in terms of making sure that you are meeting your ambitious goals, especially when you're writing, because being able to lean on a friend who is in the same boat. And you know this, like writing is very lonely, right? And so if you're an expert and you've been doing it for a long time, even experts have writing groups that they turn to. They have writing
Mhm.
buddies and besties, and sometimes they swap and share work just to be able to like, am I going crazy? Does this make sense? Does this line up? And you need to be able to have that. And so I think it's even more so important when you're new to it because like I think that's why people give up because
Yeah, yeah.
or say, I've been working on this book for like 15 years. And it's like, 15 years, sis, let's get it together. Like, why is it taking 15 years to get this book out? You know how technology have changed in 15 years? You know how many iPhones I've had in 15 years? Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I think that's so true that accountability for sure of showing up and doing, and but that we can get really lost, we can lose our vision, and
Mhm.
it's really helpful to find a book coach or someone that can help hold you to your vision,
Yes.
because your story is already there, but sometimes it's hard to find it.
Yeah. I love that you said that. It's true. I think that's a big thing that my clients suffer with. Like, where is my story? And so part of it definitely feels like book therapy versus a book
Hmm.
coaching because we
Yeah.
really have to unpack some things from childhood or marriages or this beliefs that they've held on to that are no longer serving them to really be able to get to the heart of their story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so it's such big work. I almost don't like the word coach, to be honest. I call myself a story midwife because it's such a process of really deepening and widening so that you can
Give birth.
push that baby out.
Birth to your book, baby. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's pain, some of it is painful, and like what you're talking about, that book therapy, like going in and dealing with some of those challenges can be painful. So it's like, there's ambition and dedication, I think, too, to the process, because once you start pushing, you know what happens. You can't put it
Stop
back.
pushing. If you have ever given birth, then you cannot stop pushing. It's gonna happen.
There is,
It's
yeah,
gonna
there's
happen whether you want to or not. Someone's gonna come get it if you stop pushing. So
there's no turning back. There is
exactly.
no turning back. Awesome. So we're gonna wrap up right
Okay.
now. But and if anybody wants to hop on to Tia's Instagram, we're
Yes.
gonna be there in
Yes. In a few
40 minutes.
minutes.
And but thank you so much. This has been such a lovely conversation, and I'm so looking forward to more conversation with you,
Yes,
Taiia.
thank you.
And let's make sure we and everyone, I will drop, or are you part of the Facebook group? You should join if you're not.
Want to be, yes, please.
um, and I'll drop the freebie into the comments, and I will also drop the, well, no, I think we can do the freebie, and that way you'll get on Tia's
Yeah.
email list and be part of her community. And
And check out my writing voice.
yeah, because it's awesome. Okay, thanks so much, Tia. We'll
See you in
see
a few
you in a bit.
minutes. Bye.
Bye. You can stay on, actually. I'll just